It's better if I don't see it.
Yeah, I'm going to turn the screen off. Okay. And it's March 31st, 2017.
Tomorrow's April Fool's Day.
Tomorrow's April Fool's, so we have to do it
Today,
before, or
yeah.
they won't believe it. Okay, I want to ask you about your tennis. First of all, when did you start playing tennis?
I started playing, I think, against a wall long before I probably ever saw a tennis court. There was a wall inside our house. It was actually the wall to my father's study. So if I played, I probably didn't play when he was composing. But I hit against that wall and would pretend I was playing games against myself. And there was also a wall outside near the back porch, and I would hit against that wall. The problem with that was the wall only went so high, and then there was a window. And every once in a while I would hit the window, breaking a window, which was not a happy occasion for me or my parents.
And your parents played tennis a little bit, right?
My parents played a lot, more than a little bit, a lot, I guess, in Europe. And here, a lot. My father played with, there are pictures of him playing tennis with, I think, with Charlie Chaplin or other people. Playing with Gershwin. And they played, I remember vaguely them playing at the La Cienega courts in Beverly Hills, on La Cienega, south of Wilshire. And they would, what I remember most is driving home and going through Beverly Hills and wanting to stop at Nate and Al for a Westwood sandwich. I still go there occasionally for a Westwood. So Westwood sandwich is a turkey on rye with coleslaw in it and pickles.
Okay.
I don't eat the pickles anymore, but then they were very good, and we would beg them to stop for that.
And your mom played too?
My mom was supposedly a pretty good player. My father, we have on film, so he cannot pretend he was a very good player.
Now, did they have a one-handed backhand?
Oh, I'm sure everybody had a one.
Yeah.
There were no two-handed backhands.
So didn't they see
days.
your good backhand and want to do that too?
Nobody copied. The reason I had the one-handed backhand was because
Two-handed
backhand was because I wasn't strong enough to hit it with one hand. And especially in that indoor, I could just hit only backhands and hit them with two hands. That turned out to be a big advantage later because nobody with one-handed backhands could really hit them very hard. And so I could just keep hitting the person's backhand until I missed. All they could do with a one-handed backhand in those days when they were very young, till they were about 15 even, was slice that backhand. And that's what people did. And the aggressive shot was the forehand. But I hit my backhand with two hands with a lot of topspin on it, which bothered people somewhat.
Now, one thing that's always confusing, Nuria dabbled in tennis a little bit, right? And Larry too?
When I started playing, I played with Nuria a lot. And we played wherever we could find a court. We played at Douglas Park, and we played at Lincoln Park, or anywhere we could find a court. In fact, I remember once playing with her at Lincoln Park, and it was so foggy that, well, first of all, we were able to get a court because you usually couldn't get a court. But finally, we couldn't even see across the net. We had to quit. And when I played down at Lincoln Park, of course, we took the bus from our house, or later I rode my bike all the way down to Lincoln Park, stayed all day, and then rode the bus home. In those days, you couldn't play if an adult was waiting. So it was sort of like the jungle, where you have the higher beasts coming in and taking away the kill from the other predators. We would wait and wait and wait for a court and get on a court, and then as soon as we got on a court, somebody would come over from the grandstand and take our court away from us. The only way you could really play is if you played with an adult. And because of that, I spent a lot of time playing with lesser players. I remember there was one player especially, he was a pretty good player, but he had no backhand, which really made him not so good. So I hit everything to his forehand, so I would get practice by playing with Charlie McMillan.
That strategy is going to come back later as the break down the forehand strategy, right?
Well, the break down the forehand was Max Brown.
Max Brown,
it was
of course.
Max Brown, not me. Shall I tell that now, or you want to wait until
No, we'll wait. Let's keep it chronological. So, one thing that's curious is that you were so into tennis and played it so much, but your brother and sister didn't share that love for the game, I guess, right?
Well, Nuria did. Nuria played a lot. She just was not any good. And she tried and tried, but she was not athletic. And Larry started, but I think he had the disadvantage of seeing what competition did to me. And competition was a strain on the family, because if I lost, everybody was sad. If I won, which I guess wasn't enough for him anyway to start tennis.
When did you figure out that you were good at it and that you loved it?
Well, as I said before, I always, from playing against the wall, I always loved. I just always had a great attraction. Always had a great attraction for me. I don't think I ever didn't like playing tennis.
And did you watch it on TV?
There wasn't tennis on TV in those days. There wasn't any.
So you didn't pattern your game after some pro or anything?
Well, I started just hitting, and then I took lessons from this person, and lessons in quotation mark. He was one of the Sutton sisters, were very famous tennis players, and one of them married a man called Bruce, and he must have been 90 years old, probably 60 years old. But he had this court, the Phelps on South Rockingham, which was near us, and I would go down there, and he would let us play. There were 5 or 6 of us, and the only thing he ever taught us was that if you catch the ball before it hits the ground, you lose the point. That was his big teaching thing. But he did inspire me, because he told me that if I really worked hard on my game, one day I would be as good as, I forgot the guy's name. He was a friend of mine who never did anything. But, I'll think of his name later, but it doesn't matter too much.
Now, do you remember your first time you played in a tournament?
I certainly do. I remember every time I played in a tournament. The first time I played, first I played for a long time before I played in a tournament. Maybe it wasn't a long time, a few months, with a guy called Mike McMahon, and we played at Lincoln Park, and he beat me 6-love every time. And finally I won a game, and he was so mad he broke his racket.
Just a game?
But he was the one that told me that the Santa Monica Closed was coming up, and I asked him what closed meant, and he said it meant that it had a roof over the courts. But I actually won the closed. But I played in my first sanctioned tournament. It was at Griffith Park, the Los Angeles Metropolitan Tournament, which I later won. And then in the 1800, I lost to, what's his name, the one from SC that played Davis Cup. Well, anyway, I'll get to him later. But I played my first round match. I played against somebody called Pete Peterson.
And how old are you roughly?
I must have been 9.
Oh, wow.
9 or 10. No, it was the year when I became 10. I was almost 10. I could have maybe already been 10. I played Pete Peterson, and he won the first set very easy. It was like 1-6, 6-3, 6-1. And I don't have too many. I can remember the court I played on. I can't remember the match, but I remember that I won. And then I lost to a very good player. I played in the 13 under and the 15 and under.
Whoa. In your first ever tournament?
In my first, and one I lost then to Joe Blatchford, who was second or third in the 13 and unders in Southern California. I lost 6-love, 6-love to him.
Wow.
And then I also lost in the other one where there was 13 or 15, I don't know, to Bill Cranston. And that was 6-love, 6-1. And he gave me what they called in those days a courtesy game. He let me win a game, even though he could have beaten me very easy. He had a brother that was my age, and we were fierce competitors with each other, as we'll probably get to later. We played, maybe 12, 14 times.
That's John Cranston?
John Cranston, yeah, and it was always like 10-8 in the third. It was very tough matches. He was a very nice guy, but we weren't good friends, but we sort of respected each other.
Okay. And at this point, then you started playing tournaments more often.
I played tournaments that year.
Mm-hmm.
The only tournament that I could compete in was, besides the Santa Monica closed tournament, was in Pasadena had an 11 and under tournament. And I think there were 3 people in it or something. So I got to the finals, and then I lost to Stephen Gottlieb when I was 10. And you'll see that match. My father recorded that match. It's up in our daddy's study, but we still have a replica of his scoring the match. Not just scoring, but he had the ways points were won and lost. And then the next year I again played in the 11 and under, and that time I lost to John Cranston in the final. So I was a 2-time finalist in the Pasadena 11 and under.
In Pasadena?
It was in Pasadena. That was the only tournament.
So your dad drove you down there, or your mom?
My mother drove. My dad didn't drive. My mother drove it. And of course, I was in awe of the entire thing, playing.
And you watched when you were not playing, did you get to watch the other kids play?
Sure.
So did that inspire you to want to really devote yourself to tennis?
I was inspired.
Really?
That was my whole life really interested. From when I started.
Even at 8 years old or something?
Pretty much. I mean, I played other sports. I like to play football and basketball and those sports. But it wasn't like tennis, which I really was pretty good at it. I really played with a passion.
Now, do you think that's why you were good? Was your passion? Like, do you think your strength was more your skill, your hand coordination, or your attitude and strategy and stuff like that, and determination?
Well, it's a mixture of both, and one feeds the other. If you win, you're going to be happier, and you're going to like it more than if you lose. And, I mean, I always loved it, I think, as far as I can remember. I would go down to Lincoln Park in the morning during the summer. I would ride my bike down there and play tennis all day, and then ride my bike back. And I would be out of breath by the time I got to San Vicente in 26th Street. And there was a liquor store there where I'd buy a quart bottle of Canada Dry ginger ale, guzzle the ginger ale, and then ride my bike the rest of the way home. Or sometimes when I would walk, I would go through the vacant lot that was on Sunset in South Rockingham, and I was always afraid that there were snakes in that lot. There was hay there growing, and I would sort of run through and then cross the street at North Rockingham.
Now, did you... well, I'm not sure if I want to... I kind of want to stay on that subject of what was your favorite aspect of the game. I mean, when you weren't playing, let's say in the evening, were you also thinking about tennis? Were you thinking about strategies that you could use and things like that?
I don't recall that being the case. Maybe it was at times. But I mean, I also went to school and had a life, and I'd play the sports at school. In fact, I remember I was a good athlete at school in a sense. And I remember one time we got our report cards, and of course and the nuns, I guess, gave us grades, and under I got all A's except for athletics, where I had a C. And the teacher had said, if you object to any of your grades, come and see me, and this and that. So I went, and I remember I had classmates with me, and I went there, and I said, I shouldn't get a C in athletics. And she said, oh, Ronnie, you think you have to be good in everything? I got the C because I was small. I couldn't be good in sports if I was small. And all the people that were with me said, oh, no, but he's very good in sports. He's one of the leaders in sports. But I got the C. It taught me, I don't know what, it should have taught me humility instead of taught me unfairness.
But that's interesting that you, at a young age then, we're talking 10, 11 years old now, right? Or 11, 12, that you were, in a sense, already being underestimated in terms of your athletic ability. And did you ever experience that on the tennis court where people wouldn't want to play you because they would assume you weren't that good because you were small?
Not just because I wasn't good. I think also because they didn't want to lose to me. People didn't want to play somebody if they thought they should win and they thought they were going to lose.
Interesting.
But I had friends like Kevin Tishner and Gordon Ives. There are only a few people that I played with in my very beginning because they were the only ones around who were good and who would play with me. And we were good friends too, and we would play all day.
Mm-hmm. And you didn't go to school with them. You knew them only from tennis?
No, there wasn't anybody in school that played tennis. I once asked a few girls out to play tennis with me when I was in school, but they dumped me quickly. So I didn't get much for that. I thought maybe that would help my stature, but it didn't help my stature with the women too much.
So, okay, let's keep going with the tournaments. What was your first, significant tournament success?
Well, even getting to the finals of the Pasadena, even though I only had to win one match, was good. In my second year, I think I beat John Vandekamp, who later became district attorney, and he remembered it years later.
Wow.
He was very upset. But your question was, when was my first big success? Well, I did well in the 13 and unders. When I was 11, I was already ranked, I think, in the top 10. I think I was ranked 6th in the 13 and under in Southern Cal then. And then I moved gradually up till by the time I was 13. When I was 13, I beat this guy who was first from Northern Cal, who came down for the Southern Cal Dale Jutta. And I was winning the finals of the Southern Cal against Cranston when I realized I was winning and lost. And then I lost. I won the Coronado tournament easily, but he wasn't in it. No, they weren't in it. And then in Ventura, I lost, in Santa Barbara, I lost to Cranston again, and this time after I had a match point. So I was very discouraged about that. So I lost to him twice.
In the finals?
That year, yeah, in the finals. And then finally in the Los Angeles Metropolitan Tournament, remember I told you that was the first tournament I played in at Griffith Park, but this was years later. When I was 13, I finally beat him, and it was something like 9-7, 10-8. And then I won the Santa Monica tournament and got to the finals of the 15 under, as a matter of fact. And then in the Pacific Southwest, I played Cranston in the finals. He'd beaten me twice, and I'd beaten him once.
This is the 15 and unders?
And 13 and unders. 13 unders still. And I played him, and again I beat him, and this time it was, I think, 7-5 in the third set. Very close. Very close.
And did you practice with him, or this all in tournaments?
No, he was from Pasadena or San Marino, and we never played. We weren't really friends. We did play doubles together in the Southern Cal once. We weren't friends, but we were friends. I mean, as I said, we sort of respected each other, and we had these long, drawn-out matches. I once played him in the 15 and unders at Ojai, and it was really hot. We played for about 2 hours, and I remember that. I remember the last point very well when I won.
What happened?
Because I ran so far, as far as I ever ran, and got the ball past him after he hit an overhit that he should have put away. But I won that match, and then I was so tired I could hardly move, and I had cramps all over. When I turned in the score of my match, they told me, "You're late for your finals match against Tommy Freiberg," which I then proceeded to lose. But that was in the 15 and unders. Okay,
well, let's get to the 15 and unders. Walk me through that.
When I was 14, I was about number 4 in Southern California, and I remember I practiced a lot with Mike Franks, who later became one of the top college players and ranked nationally. Very good player, and he was runner-up in the national juniors also. He always beat me, except I beat him once before he became good, but then he beat me most of the time. But I think I was 4th in Southern California then. Yeah. And I remember once I went to the Pasadena tournament with Mike Franks, and he'd never beaten Franklin Johnson. And I practiced with Mike Franks all week, and he kept telling me, "I'm going to beat Franklin Johnson, this time I'm really going to beat him. Not considering at all that I was playing Franklin Johnson in semifinals of Pasadena.
Oh my God.
And I beat Franklin,
Wow.
and then proceeded to lose to Mike Franklin in the finals.
So he was right. He would have beat Franklin.
He would have beat, well, but he never beat Franklin. I beat Franklin, incidentally, is one of the better players that I beat more than once. There are very few players that I consider really better than I am that I beat more than maybe once. But Franklin I beat a few times, including that Pasadena tournament, and I think once in the Pacific Southwest, and once in the National Hard Courts. In the National Hard Courts, I beat him. He won the National Hard Courts, which was in Burlingame, California, up north. He won it when he was 17, and when he was 18, I beat him in the quarterfinals, and then lost in the semifinals. I also lost the semifinals the next year in the National Hard Courts. What can you do?
Well, not bad, actually, to get that far.
That's the problem with tennis. You say not bad to get that far. Maybe there are 32 players in the tournament, 64 players in the tournament. Only one wins. And what you remember is not the wins. You remember that you lost.
Yeah.
So the last match you play is always a loss. I guess it's like that in Olympic high jumping and things like that. They jump until the last thing you do is when you fail. So you have to win the tournament to be happy until the next.
Well, and for you, you were really unhappy when you lost, right? Didn't you say your mom would make you mow the lawn?
I was unhappy. My mother was very hard on me. She was really sort of a typical tennis parent. And if I lost, it was you're not trying and you're lazy and you're this and that. And I don't know if I blame more on my mother than I should. It probably was a lot me, too, who had that same attitude. But...
would she watch the matches?
She watched the matches until I was 15, and then I put a prohibition on her from watching my matches. I just wouldn't play if she watched because it made me too mad and nervous.
So she would drive and not watch?
She would drive and not watch. She did watch me in the Nationals when I was 15. I remember they drove all the way back. I guess if you drive that far, you have to give a dispensation. But I lost, of course. In the semifinals of the Nationals, I lost to Mike Green. That's a whole other story. That's sort of the high point of my tennis when I was 15. And I won first when I was 15. In the first tournament, I played somebody in the semifinals, the Dudley Cup, whom I'd never lost more than 2 or 3 games to in a set. And I didn't realize that Tommy Freiberg had improved vastly over the winter. So when I played him in the first tournament in the Dudley Cup, I was completely surprised by him, and he beat me and won the tournament, beating John Krantz in the finals. Wow. Then at Ojai, I told you that I lost to John Krantz. I beat John Cranston, and then lost to Tommy because I was just so tired. I didn't even move at all. So when the Southern Cal came around, that was the third tournament, that was the big tournament in Southern California. And Dale Jonda, who was #1 in the country, came down for that tournament. And I remember, first of all, it was held in Pasadena and actually in Altadena, but that was John Cranston country. And the seating should have been Dale Jonda, Tommy, Freiberg, me, and Cranston in that order. Instead, they seated Dale Jonda as foreign seatings because he wasn't from Southern Cal. They seated Tommy Freiberg first, me second, and John Cranston third. Well, they did the draw so that Jonta played Tommy in the semis. The #1 foreign played the #1 Southern Californian, which they should not have. And I played Cranston, I'm sure in the hopes that Cranston would then get to the finals and maybe win. I beat Cranston fairly easily. He had me 5-3 in the first set, and it was 7-5, 6-1. Maybe the easiest match we ever had, but it wasn't easy. And I can remember seeing one of the tournament officials looking at the draw and saying, "There's only one good player in this tournament, Dale Jonta." Wow. I don't know if he saw that I was there or not. Wow. But anyway, I came out the next day and I beat Dale Jonta 6-1, 6-2. Completely annihilated him. And I don't know what it was, but I just played out of my head. And that got me the #1 seeding in the Nationals because of that. Then I went on to win the Coronado also, in which I beat.
What was that one where you beat Jenna in the final?
In the Southern Cal Championships.
Southern Cal Championships.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I played.
And that was worth so many points that it would.
They didn't have points.
But it was worth so much in terms of stature that just winning. I mean, winning that was really important.
It was the only time. Yeah, it was a big tournament. It counted for national ranking, and or at least national seedings. And then at Coronado, I played Tommy again in the finals, and I was a little more confident until I got out on the court. And when I got out there, I couldn't hit a backhand. I don't know. We were rallying. My backhand just wasn't going, and I was panicked. I said to myself, "I'm going to lose love and love." So I decided to come into net on every shot. I was not a net rusher. I came in, and Tommy missed every ball, and I beat him easily. I think 6-1, 6-1 or something. But that was.
Were you nervous?
Those were the good times. Well, you're always nervous, yeah, but. Nervous and calm at the same time. You try to be nervous between points, not during points.
And were you playing singles and doubles?
I played doubles. I was very successful in doubles. I was very good in doubles because I had this one shot, and the shot was not a forehand, a backhand, a serve, and overhand. The shot was choosing a good partner. I played with some of the best partners and did pretty well, but I really wasn't a good doubles player. When I played with Tommy Freiberg, we lost in the Westerns to players we beat in every tournament, Cranston and Bowden, and they beat us in doubles. And then the Nationals, but we always thought we lost to them in Ventura too, another tournament. We always thought we lost because we were playing in the finals, and one of us then would be very discouraged and wouldn't play well, or we were tired from having played each other in the finals. Then we played them in the finals of the Nationals when we didn't play each other, and we lost to them also.
Oh, God.
So it took a while to figure out that maybe they were better doubles players than we were.
Was it awkward when you get off the court from playing doubles and then you're playing these guys in singles, or the other way around?
Well, you'd always play singles first.
Okay.
And no, that didn't. Awkward was losing. We did finally beat them in Santa Monica, but they beat us most of the time. Every other time they beat us.
In the early rounds of these tournaments, you must have played people that you could just beat so easily.
Yeah, that was no practice. The early rounds were not practice. Most of them, I think that year, the 15 and under year, I won the Pacific Southwest, and I think I lost, one match was 6-love, 7-5 in the semis, or 6-love, 6-4 in the semis, and I think I lost about 3 other games in the tournament. So it was...
So in those matches, those love and love matches, what are you doing? Just practicing your shots?
Well, that's why I played. I used to always try to play, unless sub-tournaments didn't allow it, but if they allowed it, I would play in the upper division also. So I would get practice in the upper division.
Wow.
But you didn't get much practice usually in the other than in the Nationals and the Westerns, of course.
But you're playing singles and doubles in different divisions. Is stamina an issue in these tournaments? It's hot.
No, you recover. The only time I can remember, I can remember stamina being an issue the time I told you at Ojai when it was in the 90s, and I had that 2-hour match with Cranston and had to play right after I had to play Freiberg. And one other match I can remember when I was very young where stamina was... I didn't have that good stamina, but that's why stamina was an issue when I played only one match. But... generally speaking, it didn't bother you. You played doubles at the end, and you didn't move that much in doubles.
And people thought you should take a lot of salt or something for cramps. In
those days they gave you salt pills.
Did you do that?
I think I did. Yeah, everybody took salt pills, and that was considered. You'd see people. I can remember seeing Beverly Baker Flights, who was a very good player, one of the top-ranked women, get cramps on the court when she was playing, and take a pill, a salt pill, then it'd immediately go away. So we all did that. But
and you beat all these people love and love. Do you ever remember being over your head and getting beaten love and love?
Well, I told you the Pasadena, the L.A. tournament. And I also, not love, but after that, I got beaten in that same year when I was 9 or 10. I lost to Alan Cleveland, who was later, he was number 2 in the nation in the 1500 boys for a while. And I think he beat me love. And didn't bother me at all. He was so good. I was in awe just to be playing him. He actually, his daughter lives next door to us now. And I saw him once. He came back here. He moved to Texas, and then I saw him when he came back here and didn't play tennis anymore, and then he died a few years later. But, and I can remember in La Jolla one year, I won the 15 and under, and then I lost in the 18 under to somebody who, he came to net on his serve and just blasted me off the court. I think it was 3-3, but I knew I had no chance to win. So I got blown off at times.
Okay, let's get back to the nationals, because I feel like there's more to talk about there. The 15 and under nationals. So you go into that, you're seeded first. Yeah, and that's in Kalamazoo, right?
Yeah, the 15 under nationals, I'm going to start a week before. First of all, I'll start a lot before. Before the nationals are held on clay. And that's a big advantage for Southern Californians because we didn't have clay. Before I played in the nationals, I'd never played on clay, except I'd played one time on Ginger Rogers' court. But I thought it was clay. They told me it was clay, but it was really some sort of gravel. It was nothing. When I played on clay, I found you don't really watch the ball that closely on cement because you know how the ball's going to bounce. But on clay, all these spins take effect. And it's just a completely different game. Now, I played in the Westerns that was the week before the Nationals. I got nose with it in that time and even later through college. We haven't talked about college.
No, we'll get there.
In that time, I got nosebleeds a lot. And in the middle of my match with Tommy Freiberg, we were playing Max Brown from Louisville, Kentucky. You'll see he comes up later, too. And he had a partner, Chippy Miller. And Max had a bad temper. And we were in the third set. We were playing very badly. My nose was bleeding, and I thought we would have to default. But Max was so mad at Chippy Miller that they both started missing every shot. And what happened was I stood up at net and held my nose, tried to stop the bleeding, and Tommy played the whole court, and we won the match. Now, as a result of that, we couldn't stop the bleeding. I had to go to a hospital to get it cauterized. I spent the night at the hospital, and the next day in 95-degree heat.
Where was this?
This was the Westerns, which was at Champaign, Illinois.
Ooh.
I had to play Mike Green, and I had cotton in both my nostrils, so I could only breathe through my mouth. And I lost.
That was in the finals?
That was in the semifinals. Tommy actually won that tournament. He beat both Junta and Green, yeah.
And what about doubles? Could you play doubles with
I don't know if
Tommy?
We defaulted the doubles. I don't remember the doubles. If we played, we lost probably to Bowden and Cranston, I guess.
Okay.
Bowden's a very interesting person, by the way. He won a lot in doubles. Nobody ever gave him any credit. Cranston was not friendly at all to him. After they beat us in the finals of the Nationals, Bowden and Cranston left Bowden alone, and Bowden asked us if he could go to dinner with us. And, of course, all he wanted to talk about was his great victory in doubles, and we wanted to try to forget it. But anyway, we went from the Westerns to the Nationals.
Wait, before we get to that,
let's
take a break, because I want to make sure this is working.
Good idea. I told you I'd have a lot to say.
That's good.